Silverstone, August 9th, 2026. Francesco Bagnaia crashes out and records a DNF, 17th. A two-time Premier Class king, the winningest athlete in Ducati's modern history. Buried outside the points on a motorcycle designed to annihilate everything else on the grid. Ducati's official press releases will tell you it came down to a simple racing incident, a difficult weekend, one of those inevitable bad days at the office. That is the comfortable version. Here is the ruthless truth. The executives already knew precisely where this season headed. Months before that disastrous British afternoon, while Bagnaia fought publicly for his survival inside that garage, management orchestrated his replacement. In secret, behind his back. Pedro Acosta, a phenom who at the time of that signature never won a single elite-level race, secured a guaranteed seat for 2027 and 2028. Meanwhile, Bagnaia kept stepping up to microphones, defending the brand in press conferences. Who does that to a reigning victor? Because here is the reality about corporate PR. It is never the lie you catch. It is the deafening silence surrounding it. Rewind to September 2025. Bagnaia crashes out of his home Grand Prix in Misano. General manager Dall'Igna steps in front of the cameras. Does he offer support? No. He tells Italian television, "I've lost my patience too. It's normal." Not "we will fix the bike." Not "we believe in Pecco." He weaponized his own pilot's frustration and validated it on camera, broadcasting disdain to the entire paddock. That is not a boss protecting his employee. That is a man who has already mentally moved on and just forgot to inform the guy still wearing the red leathers. Track where this relationship truly started cracking. Austria, August 2025. Bagnaia finishes over 12 seconds behind the race winner. He tells reporters flatly, "I hope Ducati explains it to me because I'm running out of patience." Notice the words he omitted. He never said the setup needs work. He never offered the standard, "we will find the solution together." He deployed the word patience, twice in one breath, directing it straight at his employer. He wasn't merely complaining about grip levels. He was broadcasting to the entire paddock that trust inside his own garage had already collapsed. And the official response? Crickets. Total silence for months, followed by a calculated leak in December, confirming Acosta's agreement had crossed the finish line. The timeline alone screams the truth those polished press releases desperately try to hide. Think about the pure dysfunction required to reach that point. How does a huge motorsport operation let its foundational star discover his own impending doom through paddock whispers instead of a professional phone call? Subscribe to this channel because ruthless maneuvers like this get buried under sanitized statements every single week, and somebody has to keep pulling the thread. Consider what Bagnaia actually walked away from. The sheer weight of his resume makes this betrayal deeply arrogant. More than 30 victories on the Desmosedici GP. 5th place in the 2025 standings, enduring a season that kicked off with a front end, refusing to trail brake the way his riding style demanded. The telemetry showed heavy chatter under hard braking. This wasn't one bad Sunday afternoon. This amounted to over a year and a half of an elite competitor describing, in real time, a motorcycle fundamentally morphing underneath him, all while the engineers kept insisting nothing had changed. Instead of supporting their title holder through a rough patch, the brand chose to manage him out the door while letting him think he still held the keys. One detail should make every fan of the Red Camp squirm. Ducati and Öhlins ran a covert hardware initiative spanning over a year and a half. They built a specialized stroke-limiting device, a complex piece of suspension trickery initially pioneered by Ducati before becoming accessible across the paddock. The engineering department kept this innovation hidden from rival manufacturers for the better part of a year. That level of strict lockdown proves how tightly this organization controls information when the stakes actually matter to them. But ask yourself this. If that magnitude of secrecy and dedicated resource allocation existed for Bagnaia's side of the garage, why couldn't those same brilliant engineers solve the severe rear grip and brake chatter problems he had been screaming about since Austria? You don't get to claim you are protecting an athlete's competitive edge with one hand while quietly orchestrating his exit with the other. This wasn't R&D. It was pure damage control draped in corporate graphics. Then June 2026 hits. The dam breaks. Everything management spent months burying detonates in 4 chaotic days. June 23rd, Marc Marquez signs a large extension through 2028. June 24th, the team confirms Bagnaia is officially out at the end of the season. Same afternoon, Acosta steps up as the anointed successor. June 25th, Aprilia shocks the motorsport world by announcing they secured Bagnaia on an extended tenure. 4 enormous announcements. 4 days. An entire legacy rewritten in less time than it takes to run a single sprint race weekend. The communications department didn't leak this gradually to soften the blow. They dropped a tactical nuke on the news cycle. You only execute a media strategy that violent when the outcome has been locked away for months, waiting for the legal department to finalize the paperwork. If this breakdown makes sense to you, take a second and hit like. It truly helps push this reality in front of fans who still swallow the narrative that official team statements represent the whole story. Now look directly at the asset Ducati chose to build their next chapter around. Listen to the sheer audacity of his own words. Pedro Acosta, 22 years old, asked about the crushing pressure of replacing a legend and eventually sharing a box with Marc Marquez in 2027, responded with this: "Marc is in the final stretch of his career and I'm just starting mine. Forget humility." Acosta was publicly drawing a timeline in the sand, positioning himself as the vanguard while quietly filing his new teammate under the past. Bagnaia never received the grace to utter a sentence like that about his own employer. He got a general manager validating his frustration to Italian media and an announced departure before the season even peaked. Acosta earns the right to dictate the narrative because upper management handed him the crown before he ever proved he could wear it. Here is the specific statistic that should terrify anyone invested in this manufacturer's legacy. Before this circus, Ducati hadn't fielded a premier-class lineup devoid of an Italian pilot in 17 years. 17 years. A long streak of national pride. Done. Gone. They torched that heritage by choosing 2 Spaniards, Marquez and Acosta, over the most decorated homegrown talent they ever produced. This isn't blind nostalgia talking. This represents a multinational corporation screaming through a megaphone that national identity, historical loyalty, and homegrown talent mean nothing. None of it outweighs whatever internal analytics convinced them Acosta and Marquez represented the superior bet for a totally unproven technical era. Management dressed up a cold-blooded financial decision as a sporting evolution, sacrificing their own native son to make the math work. The fallout of this timeline became impossible to hide at Silverstone. While Bagnaia tasted gravel and plummeted down the order, a different manufacturer decided to put on a masterclass. Aprilia completely swept the sprint podium. First, second, third. Total annihilation. A flawless weekend execution on the exact same Sunday, the reigning king couldn't claw his way into the top 15. Bagnaia himself stood in front of the press pack later that evening and openly admitted Aprilia looked quite far ahead. Think about the sharp irony dripping from that observation. The garage he is actively abandoning struggles to keep his tires gripped to the asphalt. Meanwhile, the squad he just committed his life to just posted the exact type of dominant result Ducati used to monopolize. Management didn't merely let a superstar walk away. They gift-wrapped their ultimate rival, the precise momentum needed to destroy their own dynasty. And this is where the true stakes of 2027 come into focus. The upcoming season isn't just a standard calendar rollover. It brings a brutal, total technical reset. Engine displacements shrink sharply. Complex ride height devices face an outright ban. Mechanical grip becomes king again. Every single aerodynamic advantage these engineers spent half a decade perfecting vanishes overnight. Ducati walks into this void relying on a rookie pairing of Acosta and a Marquez who is, by his own garage mate's admission, in the twilight of his career. Bagnaia, meanwhile, walks into that same reset armed with maximum factory backing at Aprilia, the very manufacturer currently exposing Ducati's handling issues. Whoever adapts fastest to that engine rulebook doesn't just win a handful of races in 2027. They set the competitive hierarchy for the next 5 years. And Ducati just bet their entire enterprise on an unproven tandem, having discarded their most successful modern asset. So here is the final verdict. The executives in Bologna didn't lose their marquee talent to a rival's bigger paycheck. They didn't lose him to a superior technical pitch. They shoved him out the side door using a covert agreement, a dismissive television interview, and a media rollout timed for maximum shock and awe. This goes beyond standard paddock transitions. The board decided their three-time world beater had become inconvenient, handling his exit like an insecure brand rather than a racing institution. Bagnaia walks away, holding all the cards at a surging rival camp. The Red Garage faces a future holding two Spanish riders, 0 championships between them as a collaborative unit, and a looming regulation overhaul capable of exposing every single crack they spent the last 12 months trying to plaster over. Who truly won this bitter divorce? The historic Italian powerhouse, clutching 2 unproven puzzle pieces and a technical gamble nobody has effectively tested? Or the discarded king, walking into the next chapter with a long-term agreement and a burning desire to humiliate the executives who decided he wasn't worth the wait? Drop your answer in the comments, because this grid is about to descend into total chaos before that next generation power plant ever fires up. If this breakdown resonated with you, hit like and subscribe. There are dozens of buried truths lurking in this paddock, and the sanitized press releases will never tell you the whole story.